Gary was supposed to be back today. I took her out. She should be back today. But I can put her back in again.
The House will be in order. The first order of business is roll call. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will record their presence. Have all the members recorded their presence? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll.
Looks like he's here. Okay.
Representative Mendive is here. The roll call shows 66 present, 4 absent and excused. A quorum being present, the House is ready for business. The second order of business is prayer by the chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Today the prayer will be led by Pastor Tom Doherty, and the pledge will be led by House Page Laura Spencer. Will the guests in the gallery please rise?
Today I have a quote from Mother Teresa. Life is an opportunity, benefit from it. Life is beauty, admire it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a duty, complete it. Life is a game, play it. Life is a promise, fulfill it. Life is sorrow, overcome it. Life is a song, sing it. Life is a struggle, accept it. Life is a tragedy, confront it. Life is an adventure, dare it. Life is luck, make it. Life is too precious, do not destroy it. Life is life, fight for it. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, life is so precious to all of us. I pray we can live life to the fullest. You have given us so much inspiration in this world and given us people like Mother Teresa who touched so many lives. I pray we too can touch many lives and bring joy to the less fortunate. Lord, guide our minds and our thoughts as we take on challenges of the day. Calm our hearts and open our minds to thoughts that will help make a difference in our state. I pray a special blessing on Representative Henderson as he is recovering from his setback. Thank you for his leadership in this House. Guide us, O Lord, this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The House will now advance to the third order of business, approval of the journal. The House is at the third order.
February 27th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Judiciary Rules and Administration, report that we have read and approved the House Journal of the 51st Legislative Day and recommend same be adopted as corrected. Moved by Wills, seconded by Burgoyne.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries and the report is adopted. The House will now advance to the fourth order of business, consideration of messages from the Governor and the Senate. The House is at the fourth order.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I transmit herewith enrolled Senate Bill 1028 for the signature of the Speaker, Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
Senate Bill 1028 will be signed by the Speaker and returned to the Senate.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I return herewith enrolled House Bill 12 as amended in the Senate, which has been signed by the President, Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
House Bill 12 as amended in the Senate will be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration for delivery to the Governor.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I transmit herewith Senate Bill 1083 and Senate Bill 1014. 1100, 1089, and 1058, which have passed the Senate. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
Senate Bills 1083, 1014, 1100, 1089, as well as Senate Bill 1058 will be filed for first reading.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I return here with House Concurrent Resolution 4 and House Bill 29, which have passed the Senate. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
House Concurrent Resolution 4 and House Bill 29 will be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now advance to the fifth order of business, report of standing committees. The House is at the fifth order.
February 27th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Judiciary Rules and Administration, report that we have printed House Bills 219, 220, and 221. Will's Chairman.
House Bill 219 and 220 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. House Bill 221 will be referred to the Education Committee.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on State Affairs, report that we have had under consideration House Bill 181 and recommend that it do pass. Lurcher, Chairman.
House Bill 181 will be filed for second reading.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Education, report that we have had under consideration House Bill 206 and recommend that it do pass. DeMordaunt, Chairman.
House Bill 206 will be filed for second reading.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Transportation and Defense, report that we have had under consideration House Bill 155 and 170 and 171 and Senate Bill 1006 as amended and recommend that they do pass. Palmer, Chairman.
House Bill 155, 170, 171, and Senate Bill 1006 as amended will be filed for second reading.
February 27, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Education, report that we have had under consideration Senate Bill 1027 and recommend that it do pass. DeMordaunt, Chairman.
Senate Bill 1027 will be filed for second reading.
February 26, 2013. Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Revenue and Taxation, report that we have had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 105 and recommend that it do pass. Collins, Chairman.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 105 will be filed for second reading. Without objection, the House will now advance to the seventh order of business, motions, memorials, and resolutions. The House is at the seventh order.
Mr. Speaker, following are the names of the House pages to be approved for the first regular session of the 62nd Legislature: Joseph Andrus and Francesca Giroso.
Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the previously named individuals be approved as House pages for the 62nd Legislature of the Idaho House of Representatives.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. The oath of office has been previously administered to the two new pages. The House will now advance to the eighth order of business, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the eighth order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 222 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to veterans, providing a short title and legislative intent, amending Title 65 Idaho Code by the addition of a new Chapter 7, Title 65, to provide legislative purpose, to create the Idaho Veterans Recognition Fund, to provide distributions from the Veterans Recognition Fund, and to create the Idaho Veterans Recognition Income Fund, to provide a committee to prepare and recommend an allocation plan, and to provide for an annual allocation plan. House Bill number 223 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to concealed weapons, amending Section 183302 Idaho Code to revise the definition of concealed weapon and to make a technical correction and declaring an emergency. House Bill number 224 by Education Committee, an act relating to education, amending Chapter 5, Title 33 Idaho Code by the addition of a new Section 513A to establish provisions governing certain contracts, declaring an emergency, and providing a sunset date. House Bill number 225 by Education Committee, an act relating to education, repealing Section 33-1003 Idaho Code relating to special applications of the Educational Support Program, amending Chapter 10, Title 33 by the addition of new Section 33-1003 to establish provisions relating to special applications of the Educational Support Program and to establish provisions relating to the decrease in total average daily attendance and to limit the application of law, to establish provisions relating to the application of the support program, to separate elementary schools to certain hardship elementary schools and separate the attendance units, to separate secondary schools to certain elementary and secondary grades in elementary secondary schools, and to certain hardship secondary schools, to establish provisions relating to minimum pupils required in certain Elementary schools to establish provisions relating to certain schools that are remote and isolated from other schools, and to establish provisions relating to the support program when district boundaries are changed and declaring an emergency. House Bill number 226 by Education Committee, an act relating to education, amending Section 33-1002 C, Idaho Code, to establish provisions relating to the use of full-term average daily attendance, to calculate support units for certain alternative secondary schools, and to provide that certain support units shall be used for all state funding formulas in which support units are used. House Bill number 227 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to education, amending Title 33 Idaho Code by the addition of new Chapter 57, Title 33, to provide a short title, to provide definitions, to establish provisions relating to a tax credit for contributions made to a scholarship granting organization, to establish provisions relating to the duties and responsibilities of scholarship granting organizations, to establish provisions relating to duties and responsibilities of the State Department of Education, to provide for rules, to establish provisions relating to the duties and responsibilities of participating schools, to provide for limitation of regulatory authority, and to provide that the amount of scholarship shall not be treated as income, and providing an effective date. House Bill number 228 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to property taxation, amending Section 63208 Idaho Code to provide that there will be no adjustment for obsolescence without evidence of the cause of claimed obsolescence, the quantity of such obsolescence, and that asserted cause actually negatively affects the subject property, to provide application, to provide for rules, and to provide severability. House Bill number 229 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to firearms, explosives, and other deadly weapons, providing legislative declaration, amending Section 183315A to revise and to establish additional provisions relating to the prohibition of federal regulation of certain firearms, providing severability, and declaring an emergency.
House Bills 222, 223, 224, 225, 226, 227, 228, and House Bill 229 will be referred to Judiciary Rules and Administration for printing.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1083 by Transportation Committee, an act relating to motor vehicle license plates, amending Section 49443 Idaho Code to establish provisions relating to the use of certain specialty license plates and make technical corrections, declaring an emergency, and providing retroactive application. Senate Bill number 1014 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to fees and taxes, amending Section 41406 Idaho Code to remove the requirement that a specific percentage of funds be allocated to specific programs and providing a sunset date. Senate Bill number 1100 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to health care sharing ministries, providing short title, amending Chapter 1, Title 41 by the addition of a new Section 41121 to provide that a health care sharing ministry shall not be considered to be engaging in the business of insurance for the purpose of Title 41, to define a term and to provide for application of the Consumer Protection Act and providing severability. Senate Bill number 1089 by Education Committee, an act relating to education, repealing Section 33-1004G Idaho Code relating to early retirement incentive, including administrative staff, amending Section 33-1004H to revise provisions relating to school districts employing retired teachers and administrators, and to make a codifier's correction and declaring an emergency. Senate Bill number 1058 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to sale of keg beer, amending Section 23-1007 Idaho Code to revise the size of a keg beer that a dealer or wholesaler is allowed to sell to a consumer at his licensed premises, and amending Section 23-1018 Idaho Code to revise a definition.
Senate Bill 1083 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Senate Bill 1014 will be referred to the Health and Welfare Committee. Senate Bill 1100 will be referred to the Business Committee. Senate Bill 1089 will be referred to the Education Committee. And Senate Bill 1058 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. Without objection, the House will now advance to the 10th order of business. Second reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 10th order. Good gentleman from District 35.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. I'd like the House to join me in welcoming a good friend from mine from over in the snow country of Fremont County, Dirk Mays.
House is at the 10th order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 183 by State Affairs Committee regarding cities. House Bill 192 by State Affairs Committee regarding concealed weapons. House Bill 197 by Business Committee regarding insurance holding company systems. House Bill 147 by Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee regarding examination of case and discharge. House Bill 148 by Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee regarding Child Protective Act. House Bill 149 by Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee regarding juvenile corrections. Senate Bill 1001 by Resources and Environment Committee regarding fish and game. Senate Bill 1003 as amended by Resources and Environment Committee regarding fish and game. Senate Bill 1004 by Resources and Environment Committee regarding fish and game. House Bill 157 by Revenue and Taxation Committee regarding sales and use tax.
House Bills 183, 192, 197, 147, 148, and House Bill 149 will be filed for second reading, as well as Senate Bills 1001, 1003 as amended, 1004, and Senate Bill 1004, and House Bill 157 will all be filed for the third reading. The House will now advance to the 11th order of business, third reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 11th order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege and then a
Gentleman
motion.
has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, Representative Perry will be back with us tomorrow, and Representative Smith has a bill that he would like to present. And since he will not be with us tomorrow, we would like to move that bill to the top of the third reading calendar. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 103 be moved to the top of the third reading calendar.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request to move House Bill 103 to the top of the third reading calendar so that we might buffet the new legislator. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 103. Good gentleman from District 11.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with the full reading of House Bill 103, please.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman from District 11 is recognized to open the debate.
Members of the House, House Bill 103 removes the sunset provision that was included in Idaho Code Section 31-320 when it was enacted by House Bill 687 in 2010. In 2010, the state was dealing with the continuing effects of economic downturn and the severe drop in revenue. Budgets were being cut dramatically. The effect of these budget cuts on the judiciary was a matter of great concern. The cuts threatened the ability of the courts to fulfill their constitutional responsibility to provide fair and timely justice. They also could have had serious impact on the ability of problem-solving courts, such as our drug courts, mental health courts, to continue to function. These courts have had great successes in keeping offenders in the community and helping them become productive citizens rather than being incarcerated. The reduced functioning of these courts could have placed a greater burden on the Department of Correction. The legislature's solution was to adopt the emergency surcharge of $10 on each infraction, $50 on each misdemeanor, and $100 on each felony. It was intended to enable the courts to continue to perform their constitutional duties and to reduce the burden on state budget. 80% of the funds would go to drug court, mental health court, and the Family Court Services Fund, and 20% would go to the Idaho Statewide Trial Court Automatic Records ISTARS Fund, which provides the computerized information system on which the courts and other agencies rely. It was estimated that the surcharge would generate $4.3 million annually. The surcharge applied to those offenses committed from April 15, 2010 to June 30, 2013. This provision was included to determine whether the surcharge would function as expected and to allow review of 3 years of the economic situation and how to address the needs of the courts. The funds generated by the emergency surcharge have not quite reached the level estimated to begin with, but it has provided significant funds that have allowed the courts to continue to function. While there has been some economic recovery, general fund revenues have not fully recovered. In order to allow the judiciary to continue to fulfill its constitutional responsibilities and to allow drug courts and mental health courts to continue to address the serious problems of substance abuse and mental illness and reduce the burden on state budget, it is necessary to continue the emergency surcharge. The judicial branch has pledged to continue to measure its performance and to report back to the legislature each year. JFAC will also continue to review the status of the dedicated funds affected. The Drug Court, Mental Health Court, and Family Court Services Fund and the iSTARS Fund, and will appropriate funds and will set the spending authority appropriately. At some point, general fund revenues may recover sufficiently. But meanwhile, the emergency surcharge enables the courts, including the problem-solving courts, to continue to function, supported with the help of the surcharge paid by offenders. Removing the sunset provision will allow the courts to budget for the future and to continue to provide fair and timely and impartial justice. On a personal note, as a sheriff of Canyon County, I have seen firsthand the value of specialty courts offer. Drug court has been available since 2000 and has been able to divert hundreds of offenders from the traditional punishment that includes incarceration to a meaningful path in life that for most of the participants, and it keeps them from the burdening justice system any further. This saves the counties and the state a lot of money in the long term. I have attended numerous drug court graduations, and at the conclusion of each one, I thought to myself, I should bring my grandkids to these so they could see and hear for themselves how drugs destroy lives. For those of you who were in attendance at Idaho Supreme Court yesterday honoring Patty Tobias, you heard Justice Trout speak about over 200 babies that had been born drug-free to graduates of Idaho's drug courts. That is just one example of the trickle-down effect that specialty courts provide to our communities. Drug courts do work, and I respectfully ask for a green light on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? The gentleman from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman yield for
The
question?
gentleman from District 11 yield to a question.
Yes, he does.
Gentleman yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman. This surcharge money, is that used to support the court itself or for the additional services, including drug testing, substance abuse treatment, or mental health treatment?
Gentleman from 11.
Representative Rouchet and Mr. Chairman, the funds are dedicated only to specialty courts, and they're only used for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think that we all recognize the value of specialty courts, and I just want to take the opportunity to say that as a emergency surcharge, now a permanent emergency surcharge, I think it's a wise way to spend money. I would point out, however, though, that this is just to support the court, and we will have an opportunity to examine the treatments for the clients of these courts, including the substance abuse and mental health and social services that we support through health and welfare and local agencies, and I hope we have a similar view to those services when they come up before us. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from 21.
Mr. Speaker, and not to impugn the gentleman from 11 on his first bill, but just some clarification on the bill. I do support the concept of supporting the courts. The emergency, I think, is the critical thing here, and the sunset clause. It's removing the sunset clause. The emergency, if it still exists, we should use the previous legislative intent, which was set the emergency, set a time certain, review it when that emergency is over. I don't think the emergency is over. I think there's still a need for the funds to be into this dedicated fund, but the emergency clause, or the sunset clause, I think needs to stay in the bill, and I'm going to vote against the bill for that purpose. And in committee, I made that same statement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor of the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nobody really likes to see fees continued, but this is one of those things where we're actually having folks that use the system pay for the system. When the emergency came up as was stated by the good gentleman from 11, we had a significant deficit. As a matter of fact, it was about a $5 million hit to the courts that would have eliminated all of these specialty courts and many other aspects of the services that we receive from courts. The anticipated revenue from this surcharge did not completely meet what was anticipated. It was anticipated that it would generate about $4.3 million. In fact, it only generated about $4 million, so they were still about $300,000 short of their goal and about $1 million short of where they were before the emergency. If we don't repeal the sunset, then what will happen is that this money will have to come out of the general fund. And so it's the horns of a dilemma. The services are needed. They're very valuable. They divert a lot of people from our prison systems that save us a lot of money. So this is really an issue of continuing those services or not, or continuing those services and allowing this fee, or coming up with the money out of the general fund. And right now we know we don't have that money, and frankly, the projections are we won't be able to recover $5 million to replace this money out of the general fund for some time. So as much as I hate fee bills, this is something that's already in place. It's not adding to any fees. It's simply allowing current funding to continue and not forcing us to go to the general fund.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good people of the House, I definitely have a problem when we have a sunset and we eliminate it completely. Sunsets allow us to come back every few years and look at these bills and discuss these issues again and make us think about other ways that we can fund things. So when we put a sunset on something, I think it's always a good idea, if we have to move it forward, to do that, but not totally eliminate it. For that reason, I will be voting against it. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, will the good gentleman from, good gentleman from District 20.
Rule 38,
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman from District 20 just wanted to declare Rule of 38, and he intends to vote.
Duly noted. Would the gentleman from District 11 care to close the debate?
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Many of these issues were discussed in committee, and it did come out with a pass recommendation, so I appreciate a green light. Thank you.
The debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 103 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted?
Yep, looks good.
Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 40 aye, 28 nay, 2 absent and excused. House Bill 103 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 103 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 168. The gentleman from District 12.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 168.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker and members of the House, House Bill 168 is proposed legislation that would void contracted provisions in motor carrier transportation contracts that indemnify a promisee shipper for their own negligent and intentional acts or omissions that lead to claims. The effect of this indemnification clause is to eliminate the incentive for the shipper to meet its responsibilities and duties in a prudent and reasonable manner. In essence, such a clause makes the motor carrier the shipper's insurer. The proposal clarifies that both parties in a motor carrier transportation contract, meaning the shipper and carrier, can each only be held responsible for activities under their control. It does not avoid contractual provisions, it does not establish any new duties or responsibilities for any party, and it does not limit the party's freedom to contract. With the elimination of the indemnification, both parties, shipper and carrier, are now on an even playing field. It does state that such motor carrier transportation indemnification contract provisions are against public policy of the state of Idaho and are void and unenforceable. As of July 30th, 30 states have enacted statutes that prohibit or make unenforceable provisions in a contract for motor carrier transportation that require a motor carrier to indemnify another party to the contract for that party's own acts and omissions. Again, members, the proposal clarifies that both parties to a motor carrier transportation contract, meaning shipper and carrier, can each only be held responsible for activities under their control. The Idaho Trucking Association supports this bill, and it came through our Transportation Committee as a unanimous do pass. I would ask for your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 168 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted?
Stevenson.
Representative Stevenson. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 68 ayes, 0 nay, 2 absent and excused. House Bill 168 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 168 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration Senate Bill 1044. Good gentleman from District 15.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to dispense the reading of Senate Bill 1044.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill deals with stability wheels for motorcycles. If you will, imagine a bicycle with training wheels, and let's take that up to a motorcycle where it would have 2 outboard wheels on either side of the drive wheel in the rear. These kits have been designed specifically for people that have been riding for a lot of years, and due to the weight of a good touring bike being around 800 pounds, plus or minus 100 pounds, people are getting older that ride them, but their skills of riding are just as good as they've ever been. What they need is stability when they go to stop due to arthritis in their ankles, knees, or leg strength to hold a big bike up and be safe. The reason these kits have been designed is because 3-wheelers, which offer the stability, have the sidecar, a sidecar on the rear or on the side, so left turns are easy, but right turns are challenging. 3-wheel motorcycles are good. You can turn each way, but a lot of times if you don't do it correctly, the outboard wheel will lift up and they can tip. So because of those particulars, these kits have been designed so turning in any direction is always the same, and they offer more stability, they don't tip, they don't fall over, they're very safe. In fact, when we leave the garage and make the turn onto the second level, there is one of those bikes right there. They're very effective. I have seen them out on the road and rode behind them, and they work. And the problem here has been police see them and see 4 wheels, but they're not a car. They're not a 2-wheeler or a 3-wheeler. So there's been citations issued, and this is to clear up the misconception. And, you know, obviously they're still a motorcycle. They don't have a door you get in, they don't have seat belts, and they don't have windshield wipers and everything else. They are a motorcycle with stability wheels on it, make motorcycling safer. Obviously, there's no impact on the financials of Idaho on this, And it's a great idea, and I would like to see this bill pass. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 4.
Rule 38, I am a motorcycle dealer, and it's a good bill.
Good gentleman from District 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman yield to a question?
Well, the gentleman from
yields.
District
Thank
15,
you, Mr.
gentleman
Speaker.
yields.
If the issue is safety, is there any provision in the code, or would there be any that would require a person who uses these or adds them to a motorcycle to go through additional training or to demonstrate appropriate familiarity with the use of the modified motorcycle in this type?
Gentleman from 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman from
24.
No. In fact, I've watched people ride them for the first time, and my experience says they maintain like the motorcycle they are. The turning radius might be a little broader, but they're unbelievably as close to two wheels as you can get and still having the stability of those wheels there. So I personally don't see it as a need to increase training skills and stuff. You either ride them or you don't. It's just
a follow-up question, Mr. Speaker.
Will the gentleman yield further?
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. Was there any discussion of this in committee or of any additional requirements or training or sort of showing of safety procedures, particularly for first-time operators? Was that discussed at all in the committee?
Gentleman from 15.
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman from 24. Actually, it was not. I explained in the committee how these wheels work, how I've ridden behind people, how I've helped set them up, and that was not discussed. It pretty much went without saying. They don't radicalize the motorcycle that much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, good gentleman.
No additional training, just not as cool. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1044 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. Roll call shows 68 ayes, 0 nay, 2 absent, excused. Senate Bill 1044 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, Senate Bill 1044 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 184. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that we cease the reading of House Bill 184.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. House Bill 184 deals with net operating losses for income tax purposes. In a net operating loss, a business is allowed that deduction against other income in the year it is earned. A net operating loss may be carried back 2 years or may be carried forward and deducted in other years. Under current law, net operating loss is required to be carried back unless a taxpayer checks a box on the Idaho return in the year it is earned, electing to carry it forward. And therein lies the problem. Sometimes people forget to check the box. And so what we're doing with this bill is we're saying, hey, we're allowing you to carry that net operating loss back or forward. You don't have to check the box. We'll just make it clear that you don't have to check the box. And the reason we're doing that is we really don't need the Idaho state saying, Mother, may I, and check a box. Those people are entitled to that net operating loss, that deduction, and we're allowing them to do that. We're just not making them check the box. Thank you, Mr.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 184 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. Roll call shows 68 ayes, 0 nay, 2 absent, excused. House Bill 184 is passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 184 will be transmitted to the Senate.
Mr. Speaker.
Good lady from District 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House, for a point of personal privilege, please.
The good lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please help me in welcoming our mayor from Middleton, Darren Taylor, and with him is the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council.
Welcome to the gallery. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 187. Good gentleman from District 12.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that we dispense with further reading of House Bill 187.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2012, House Bill 489 was passed by the legislature and signed into law. This legislation exempted free tastings of beverages, including but not limited to wine and beer, from the payment of use taxes. Following the 2012 session, members of the agricultural industry drafted legislation to exempt free tastings of food from the payment of use taxes. Industry met with the Tax Commission in 2013, and legislation was agreed upon by both entities and is before us today, and that is House Bill 187. House Bill 187 amends 63-3621 Idaho Code to do the following. First, it clarifies that a tasting of wine or beer shall be quantified as the maximum serving allowed by federal and state law. This language was not clarified in last year's legislation when beverages were exempted. State law currently allows up to 2 ounces of wine to be poured and federal law up to 8 ounces of beer to be poured. Second, the legislation exempts tastings of food from the payment of use taxes, just like beverages were last year. So if I'm a vendor or a retailer such as a farmer's market or Costco, a fruit rancher, or a restaurant, and I provide someone with a sample of my product, I no longer have to pay a use tax on that sample. The last thing this legislation does is it defines a tasting of a non-alcoholic beverage or food as a sample from a unit available for sale at the tasting location. The fiscal impact of this legislation is unknown. Industry asked the Tax Commission if the impact could be quantified, and we're told it could not be. Therefore, it is believed that there would be minimal impact to the general fund. This was the same fiscal impact statement made for the beverage bill last year. House Bill 187 sets good tax policy for the state of Idaho on behalf of many agricultural producers and retailers that support this legislation. This legislation received a unanimous do-pass recommendation from the Revenue and Taxation Committee, and I would ask for your green light.
Is there further debate?
Mr. Speaker.
Good lady from District 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To declare Rule of 38, this bill was brought forward by a client of my husband's. However, I am intending to vote.
Duly noted. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 187 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 68 ayes, 0 nay, 2 absent and excused. House Bill 187 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 187 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 203. Good lady from District 6.
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 203.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill, a supplemental bill for fiscal year 2013 for 2 divisions in the Health and Welfare Department. And I've asked that you be provided with a chart showing the layout of the department, because this is a large department with approximately 17 divisions and subsections, and we'll be bringing forward budgets for many of these units in the next week and a half or so, and I thought it would be a good idea if you would please keep this at your desk, because it can be very confusing. I think it's the largest department in the state. It has approximately 3,000 employees and all of these units, and many of the items that we'll be bringing to you with appropriation bills have bills that will be in cross the same topic in different divisions. So I thought it would be a good idea to help you. The two divisions that we have today for this appropriation are indirect support services and public health services. The bill includes, in the indirect support services division, a net zero object transfer of $1,250,000 from capital outlay to operating expenditures for Medicaid readiness, and an increase of $59,600 for criminal history unit background check fees. And then in the second division, public health services, $10,100,000 in dedicated assessment funds to provide vaccines to children, and $441,400 from the general fund to provide vaccines to children covered by TRICARE insurance. It also includes legislative intent language clarifying the Medicaid readiness object transfer.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is,
Mr. Speaker, I had a discussion about, I didn't know if there would be questions first. May I continue with discussion?
You may continue, but...
No?
I think you're on a roll here.
Oh, I'm on a... Oh, she says go for it. Okay. All right.
But to the body, we would pause. We don't pause during debate for questions. We say our piece, questions are asked and answered, and then and that. So anyway, so I apologize for interrupting the lady during her opening.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and you've saved the body several paragraphs of numbers, so perhaps I will just cut to the chase. I ask for your green light in approving and voting yes to the supplemental 2013 budget for two divisions in the welfare department.
And I apologize to the lady for interrupting. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 203 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 56 aye, 12 nay, 2 absent, excused. House Bill 203 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 203 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 142. Good gentleman from District 2.
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to dispense with the reading of House Bill 142.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 142 is legislation to modernize and update the practice of dentistry. There are two provisions that are amended by this bill, and they include the following issues. Number one, the naming and updating of ownership forms or business practices for dentists. And number two, the ownership and control of dental practices, limiting such ownership to dentists. Statutes and rules for dentists have not been updated since the passage of the Idaho Uniform Limited Liability Company Act and the Managed Care Reform Act. Professional limited liability companies, or PLLCs, were created by statute to streamline and modernize the ownership entity for professionals without having to go to a corporate structure. Dentists are specifically included in the list of professions that can form a PLLC as long as all members are duly licensed to render professional services. PLLCs may operate under assumed trade names so long as the name is filed with the Secretary of State. Enactment of House Bill 142 provides conformance with other sections of Idaho Code and allows dentists to form PLLCs using a trade name or an assumed business name. Unless the Idaho Dental Practice Act is revised, dentists are prevented from forming PLLCs unless the true name of all members are used in the name of the PLLC. Unless amended, dentists would be prevented from practicing under a limited managed care plan unless the dentist uses their own name. The changes to House Bill 142 allow dentists to fully use these options available in Idaho Code. The second change in House Bill 142 is the addition of Section 14, which clarifies what the Board of Dentistry believes is current law. Both the Professional Service Corporation Act and the Idaho Uniform Limited Liability Company Act limit the rendering of professional services to the public to only licensed professionals. Subsection 14 provides separate statutory authority necessary for the Board of Dentistry to restrict or take action against a dentist who engages in the practice of dentistry with a business entity in which a person is not licensed to practice dentistry holds an ownership interest. Last year, a business entity from another state formed a corporation which advertised dental treatment services, but it was not owned by dentists. The entity hired a dentist as an employee. The entity engaged in business decisions that were not in the best interest of the patients. The dentist protested, was fired, and locked out of the office. Patients were left without care and without records. This is the type of the problem that the bill seeks to remedy. Similar restrictions are used in other professions and other professional organizations. These organizational controls are used to assure that the best interests of the patients or the clients are protected. Idaho Rule of Professional Responsibility 5.4 prevents lawyers from forming business entities with non-lawyers. Both the Professional Service Corporation Act and the Professional Limited Liability Company Act prevent physicians from forming business entities with non-physicians. The requested amendment provides similar protections for dentists. To summarize, House Bill 142 clarifies and ensures the board's ability to carry out oversight and ensure patient safety. It's proposed by the State Board of Dentistry. It's supported by the Idaho Dental Association. The committee recommended this legislation do pass. I request your green light for approval on this bill, and I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 28.
I rise to declare a Rule 38 as I come from a family of dentists and I'm also a certified but not acting dental assistant. I will be voting no.
Is there further debate? The gentleman from District 32.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if the gentleman from 2 would yield to a question.
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
I yield.
The gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, good gentleman from 2, if a dentist has formed a LLC and he hires his wife as a office manager, is that permitted currently? And will this legislation affect that in any way?
Gentleman from 2.
That is allowed in this legislation, to the best of my knowledge, would not affect it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 142 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. The roll call shows 53 aye, 15 nay, 2 absent and excused. House Bill 142 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 142 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request unanimous consent that House Bill 206 be returned to committee, if I could explain.
The gentleman is recognized to explain his unanimous consent request.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, there were some procedural questions on this bill in committee, and just to make sure that there are not any issues in regards to that, I would request it be returned to committee so that those procedural processes can be rectified.
Good gentleman, where in the process does that bill reside? 206, did you say?
House Bill 206, that's correct. I believe it's on second reading, I believe.
It was just filed for second reading.
Okay, it was just filed for second reading earlier today. You've all heard the unanimous consent request that House Bill 206 be returned to the Education Committee. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you.
The House will now.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the remaining bills on the third reading calendar hold their place one legislative day.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the remaining bills on the third reading calendar will hold their place for one legislative day. The House will now advance to the 15th order of business announcements. Are there announcements? The gentleman from District 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder again of the go-kart races tonight at 6:30. Family members and friends in the pages are all invited to participate. And also, as we look at the pages, they have a list on their door of food items that they would like to have. And a lot of those are healthy foods, like vegetables and stuff like that, stuff that I tend to shy away from. But please don't hesitate to give them to the pages because they really would like them. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? The gentleman from District 28.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The boys' state basketball tournament begins tomorrow, and I have free tickets. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? The clerk may read.
Following are the Standing Committee meeting announcements for this afternoon. Business Committee will meet this afternoon at 1:30, East Wing, Room 41, Henderson Chairman. Commerce and Human Resources Committee will not meet this afternoon, Hartkin Chairman. Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee will meet this afternoon at 1:30, East Wing, Room 42, Wills Chairman. Resources and Conservation Committee will meet this afternoon at 1:30, East Wing, Room 40, Denny Chairman. For tomorrow morning, Education Committee will meet at 9 a.m., East Wing, Room 41, DeMordaunt Chairman. Health and Welfare Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., East Wing, Room 20, Wood Chairman. Revenue and Taxation Committee will not meet tomorrow morning, Collins Chairman. And State Affairs Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., East Wing, Room 40, Lurcher Chairman.
The House will now advance to the 16th order of business. Adjournment of the House is at the 16th order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege. I've got a couple of things I need to do here real quick.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, I would like to order our calendar a little differently than it is today for the future. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask unanimous consent that in the future that the calendar on the third reading calendar be organized with the House bills first, followed by House joint memorials, followed by House concurrent resolutions, followed by Senate bills, followed by Senate joint memorials, followed by Senate concurrent resolutions.
Is the clerk clear on that order?
I am.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request to reorder the third reading calendar. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And one personal privilege again.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. My younger brother's in the gallery today. I often refer to him as the one with the hair. His name's Jared. He forgot to shave his chin, but I want to welcome my brother here today. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House adjourn until the hour of 11 a.m. Thursday, March 1st. February 28th.
February 28th.
2013. I'm one day ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I think I second that motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and the House stands adjourned until the hour of 11 a.m. Thursday, February 28, 2013.